Hey guys, Kevin here. So I've been doing quite a number of discovery calls over the last week and a half, and it's almost like everybody has got their credit card statements after Christmas and realized, holy Toledo, I have majorly overspent, and what I'm making right now is not going to allow me to cover off all these credit card bills I've got. I'm joking, okay? Well, maybe I'm not joking. But anyway, I've been doing quite a number of calls over the last week and a half, and I'm getting a lot of the same sort of questions. So I figured, you know what, I'm going to shoot a video on this. I'm going to go over the top 3 questions that I'm getting from interested CPAs who are interested in looking at the program that I'm offering. One of the big ones, I don't know how to run a firm. So how am I going to buy a firm and then run it? I've worked in firms before, but I've never run a firm before. What I can say about that is that that's not an issue. In fact, that's probably the least of your issues if you're going to buy a firm or acquire a firm. What's going to happen is when you acquire a firm, that firm is going to come with staff. And those staff members, they've been working in that firm for years. The processes, the procedures, everything that makes that firm tick has been running for probably decades by the time you come on the scene. All the processes, all the procedures, they're already established. You're going to come in, and what's going to happen is the staff, they're basically going to lead the way because they've been doing it for probably quite a number of years. What I find is almost every firm that I have purchased comes with 1 or 2 key staff members who have basically been there for quite a number of years, and they know pretty much everything that's going on in the company. And who does what, and usually it's those 1 or 2 staff members that you can really count on to help get those files across the finish line. But what you're going to find when you first come in is that the staff aren't even going to rely on you to be directing them or telling them this needs to happen or that needs to happen. And in fact, I'll be honest with you, for the most part, they're going to bring these issues to you. They're going to bring up the different files, and they're going to give you a heads up, and they're going to say, hey, this month is GST filing. You know, here are the 20 or 30 files that we usually file for GST. And, you know, so-and-so normally does half, and I do the other half, or whoever does whatever. And we're just running it by you just so that, are you okay if we continue to do what we've been doing for the last 10 or 15 years? Your response to that is going to be absolutely. I change nothing in the first year. Let's just keep moving ahead. And I'm just learning every day when I come in. I'm learning your guys' processes, your procedures, and I'm just trying to figure out who all the players are. And really, that is exactly what you're doing. As I say in my program, don't walk in with both barrels blazing. No matter whether you find certain things within the firm that you think, holy smokes, I need to change this right now. Don't do it. That for whatever reason, when I first acquired my first firm, I saw certain things that I thought to myself, it doesn't look right, or it doesn't sound right, or it didn't sit right with me. After about 7-8 months, hang on, let me just step back for a sec. When I saw those issues, I thought to myself, you know what, I should really say something, or I should change something. And don't ask me why, but for whatever reason, I just bit my tongue and I said nothing, and I just went with the flow. And I can tell you now, I am so happy I did that, because 99% of what I saw, I didn't have the knowledge or the experience to make the kind of calls that I wanted to make in terms of let's switch up this process, or let's change it to this. I mean, those processes, like in my case, they had been running for decades, and they actually worked quite well. Now, does that mean that I just left everything, whether I agreed with it or not? No, absolutely not. I made a note, and after I had a good run in regards to a good solid tax season under my belt, after tax season, I went to the key staff members and I said, okay, during the last 5, 6, 7 months, this is what I've noticed. Can you explain to me why you guys have always done it this way or always done it that way? And most, I mean, I've never had negative feedback from a staff member who has basically just kind of brushed you off and said, yeah, you know what, you don't need to know that. I have always had nothing but my questions received with open arms, and staff members who are interested. And actually, what I find funny, or what you'll find funny, is that the staff is actually genuinely interested in telling you why they do things a certain way. And I'm that type of person where, don't say to me, it's always been done this way. I could care less about that. I want to know why. Just because you've been doing it a certain way for the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years, does that make it the right way? No. In my experience, it doesn't. So I want to know why. And taking that approach has served me well, and it's been received quite well from the staff who I'm asking these questions of. So when I'm taking these discovery calls with potential members who may want to sign up, that is one of the big questions. I don't know how to run a firm, and that makes me really nervous. And I'm here to tell you, you don't even need to think about that, because the reality is that firm is going to run itself. You're going to sit there and you're going to monitor things for the first 5, 6, 7 months. You're going to make notes, and there is going to be a time for you to sit down with staff or ask certain key staff members why a certain procedure is done the way it is. And you're going to figure out that, you know what, maybe it is a good way that they do it that way. But the bottom line is, the key thing to not worry about, don't worry about having to have the knowledge to run a firm. That is not the knowledge you need when you first take over a firm. It is going to continue to run. The day you take over, it'll continue like nothing has ever changed. The staff will do what they're supposed to do. And the biggest thing is they're probably going to run a few things by you in terms of, look, this is the way we've always done it. And this is the way we would like to proceed. What do you think? And your response to that is going to be, you know what? Keep moving and keep doing everything the way you guys have always done it. I don't want to interfere in that, and I'm just here as a bystander at this point in time. You'll find that the staff will respect you for that, and they will enjoy working with you because you're going to give them the leeway that everyone likes to have when they're working, rather than being told or dictated to in terms of how things have to go and we're changing everything whether you like it or not. That's not a good approach, okay? So, that's the first thing. Second thing, and usually I'll get this, after we've talked for maybe 15, 20, 30 minutes, the potential member will say to me, God, you know what? I love everything you're telling me, but I'm still nervous. And my response to that is, you know what? You should be. We're not talking about you taking a new route to work. Instead of turning left on Smith Street, you turn right on Taylor Street. No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about a career change, and we're talking about a very, very exciting career change. We are talking about, and I'm gonna get to number 3 after, but we are talking about your potential earning power is going to grow exponentially. And that growth, I'm not talking about sitting there watching and waiting for water to boil. I'm talking about day 1, your earnings will grow by 2, 3, 4, 5 times what you are currently earning. To me, I find that very exciting. If during our phone calls, if somebody had said to me, yeah, that's pretty interesting what you're telling me. Next, I would think, holy smokes, did you hear what I said? Like, you're making $100,000 a year. Where we're gonna take you, you can be making 2, 3, 4, 500,000 a year. That should get you excited, because, and the one thing that I always say is that, look, it's not about the money at the end of the day, but it's what the money allows you to do in regards to the freedom, and that freedom for everybody could be completely different. I mean, the obvious freedom is freedom to spend on whatever you want. So you want to buy cars, buy cars. You want to go on trips, go on trips. You want to treat your family, treat your family. It's that type of freedom. It's freedom of how many hours do I want to work a week? Do I want to keep plugging away at my 50, 60 hours? What I will tell you is, if you do want to keep doing 50, 60 hours, but you switch it up and you own your own firm, I mean, it is amazing how many people I have met who do the 50 to 60 hours a week, and they make anywhere between 100 to 150,000 a year. I can tell you this, if you're willing to put in 50, 60 hours a week running your own public practice firm, get used to making 300, 400, 500,000 a year, because that is the kind of money that comes with putting in those kind of hours. Getting back to my original number 2, which was the feedback that I'm getting is that people telling me, absolutely love what you're saying, excuse me, but I'm still really nervous about this. As I said, that is perfectly normal. You're making a big career change. You should be nervous. But trust your instinct. You're nervous for all the right reasons. You're nervous because the opportunity is an extremely good opportunity. You're nervous because with my involvement, this career change, I've put it this way, I've been involved in 10 acquisitions, and I've closed on 5 of them. What I can tell you is that from my point of view, there is nothing but upside to it. And I'll tell you another thing. It's actually quite entertaining to hear people tell me their story, because their story is just so identical to what my story was 20 plus years ago, before I transitioned into owning my own public practice firms and then expanded from there. I can tell you that almost on every single phone call that I'm on, I get goosebumps, because I hear the same story over and over in regards to the amount of money that you're making, in regards to the number of hours that you're working, in regards to the fact that after taxes, even though, look, we're all CPAs, we're all making good money, factor in the taxes though, and at the end of the day, the net income, it is good. And don't get me wrong, even if you decide to stay where you're at, you are making good money. All I'm saying is that the money that you could be making, it will blow whatever you're making right now right out of the water. And I know it's hard to believe, but it's a very exciting concept. Very exciting. Now, number 3. And number 3 is almost like a lead-in from number 2. What I get from a lot of the people who I'm speaking with is that they'll tell me, look, I hear you when you talk about the potential numbers, but I've got to be honest with you, I don't believe it. I mean, right now, okay, I'm making $125,000 a year. I'm working 50, 60 hours a week, and you're telling me that I can make 3, 4, 5 times that and actually reduce my numbers down to 40 hours a week? Or if I want to make double or triple that, I can reduce my hours down to 30 hours a week? it sounds too good to be true. And I get it. I fully get it, because you know what's really interesting? Okay, going back to what I was saying before. I was in the exact same boat you were in. And that boat that you are in right now, that I was in 20 years ago, the kind of numbers that we are used to hearing is earning anywhere between 60, 70, 80,000 a year. And then when you're with the company for a bit, you're going to eke your way up to 100, maybe 125,000 a year. Maybe you come in with top-notch qualifications. You've got the in-depth tax, you've got your CPA, you've got numerous other designations under your belt, and you're going to be brought on at 135 or maybe 150,000 a year, which is very good money. But the reality is, I'm here to tell you, I made that leap from working in industry or working for somebody else to now working for yourself in public practice. And I can tell you, the leap is exponential. When I talk about doubling what you're making, like that, to me, that's a given. And I almost don't even like to say doubling, because it's just such a given. Get used to making 3 or 4 or 5 times what you're making, because that is the world you're going to enter when you start running your own firm. When you start running your own firm, you got different levers that you can pull that you just can't pull when you're working for somebody else, earning your income and having to report it on a personal tax return. What I mean by that, when you run your own firm, you can insulate yourself against inflation. Little tweaks that we'll go over in terms of little tweaks that you can do that will directly impact your bottom line without you breaking a sweat or hiring more staff or having to get out and hustle in terms of getting more clients or whatever the case may be. You've just got so many options available to you when you're running your own firm versus if you're working for somebody else. And it's all those little options that are going to accumulate that do nothing but hit your bottom line at the end of the day. Now, when I first got in to public practice, like I said before, if anybody's watched my other videos, I was earning $125,000 a year, and that was considered really good money. But do you know when I realized that it really wasn't that good of money? It was a Friday afternoon. I was driving down the road. It was July, August, something like that. Nice warm day. Those days where it's daylight out until 9 or 10 at night. I had left the office on a Friday afternoon, and I figured, you know what? I'm going to treat the family. It's Friday. My wife and I, our kids were still young, so we figured we're going to rent 2-3 movies. I'm going to go pick up some dinner and some snacks and treats and all that stuff. And as I was driving down the road, I was doing a calculation in my head in terms of what it was going to cost to rent the movies and buy the dinner and buy the snacks. And as I'm adding this up, I'm thinking, wait a minute, this is going to be like, $200-300. I can't afford that. That's insane. I've got mortgage payments, I've got car payments, we've got grocery, and I mean, look, I didn't sit and dwell on this for hours. It was like, within seconds, I'm thinking about all this as I'm driving down the road, and I had to give my head a shake. And it was like, hold on here, you're making $125,000 a year, and you're running the numbers through your head, and you can't afford to pick up dinner on a Friday night and get some movies for your family and your kids. Like, this is ridiculous. What is wrong with this equation? It does not make sense. And that was when I really started to get into thinking, believe me, watch my videos and you'll get my whole story in regards to how I arrived at where I arrived at. But suffice it to say, when you make that leap or that transition from working for someone else into owning your own firm, the numbers that you are used to hearing, 80 grand a year, 100 grand a year, 125 or 150 grand a year. And I can tell you this, if you have an employer who's paying you that kind of money, they own you. And what I mean by that is when they tell you, yeah, I know it's Friday and I know you put 40 hours in, but the reality is there's a project due on Monday. You need to work this Saturday. Guess what? You're working Saturday and you're working Sunday, and that's just the way it goes. And you're going to be doing that, and you're going to be getting your remuneration, your personal remuneration. That's going to be whatever, 125, 150,000 a year, whatever, doesn't matter. Because what I can tell you is that I don't make these numbers up. If I tell you that when you get into public practice and you're running your own firm, be prepared to double, triple, quadruple, or even make 5 times what you're currently making. I'm telling you that because that is exactly what I'm doing. That is exactly what I experienced over the last 20 years. And it's getting into a different mind frame, which, okay, I'll give you another example. When I got into public practice, and I did all my calculations, and I mean, heck, okay, I was making $125,000 a year. What does that work out to? Call it $10,000 a month gross, not net. When you net that, it's probably more like about $7,500 a month. Okay. So when I got when I bought my firm, and fast forward 12 months, 13 months, whatever it was, I was looking for a bank loan because I was going to buy a boat, really nice boat. So I get a call from the banker, and she says to me, "Hey, I was looking at your deposits in your bank, and I saw $35,000. Like, what is that? Is that like a capital gain or something?" And I'm sure all you CPAs out there, you know that capital gains are like a one-time sort of thing. And I said, and it felt very weird because when you're used to putting $7,500 into the bank every month, and now all of a sudden I'm putting $35,000 into the bank as my remuneration every month, and I even when she asked, I thought, oh my God, she's not even going to believe me. And I told her, I said, that's my salary. She was like, oh, okay, yeah, no, I just thought I'd ask. I didn't know. And I said, yeah, no, that's my salary. Now that was during my beginning stages, whereas now it's like, yeah, I mean, I'm used to these kind of numbers. These are the numbers that I play with daily, monthly, annually. So when I get a call from the bank, which they don't even call me anymore, they know what it is. It's 30, it's 40, it's 50,000 a month. Yeah, that's what I take out of my company. That's what I need to live off of, and that's what I spend my money on. But the other thing, just on a side note before I wrap this whole thing up, the other thing that you are going to realize is that when you are working for somebody else and you are receiving employment income, you don't have a lot of options in terms of how you report that income and how you can reduce that income for tax purposes. So basically, and the other thing you're going to realize, and I'm sure you've already realized it because you've been doing it for the last X amount of years, a huge portion of your employment income goes to the government in the form of taxes. When you purchase your own firm, you have now just stepped into a brand new tax efficient environment. And what I mean by that, for all my members up in Canada, you're going to acquire your firm under a corporate structure, okay? That would be my tax advice. And the reason for that is because your corporation can earn up to $500,000 net income, and it's going to pay 11% tax on that. Versus if you or I earned 500 grand income, gross income, on employment income, depending on what province you're living in, you're going to pay upwards of 53.5% tax. Okay, so that's one level, or that's one example of the tax planning. And I don't want to make this a tax planning video, but suffice it to say, you can integrate a family trust into your corporate structure. You can have beneficiaries of that family trust. You can pay, let's say you've got 5 beneficiaries in that family trust. You can pay, and take this with a huge grain of salt, because there are many factors that have to factor in order for you to be eligible for this. But let's just say the fact pattern is such that you can pay dividends through that family trust, and every beneficiary qualifies for those dividends. Well, you can pull 250 grand out of the company and pay less than $20,000 in tax on that $250,000 payout. Okay, and like I say, don't anybody take this as tax advice, because it's not tax advice. It is simply an example of the world, the new tax efficient world that you step into when you start running your own business through acquiring another firm. Okay, versus earning your income as employment income, where you are taxed like there is no tomorrow. So I fully get it when I get the feedback from a lot of my discovery calls with a lot of people looking at this and just saying, yeah, I hear your numbers, I hear where you're coming from, but I don't believe it. And I get it, because I can tell you this, I was in the exact same boat that you are in right now, and I didn't get it. I didn't believe it. In fact, it's funny. I'll give you one last quick story before I close out this video. God, it must have been 23, 25 years ago. I was reading an accounting magazine, and they were talking about what the average remuneration was for a partner in a public practice firm. And they were saying at that time it was $250,000 a year. And at that time I was making $80,000 to $85,000 a year. And I remember thinking to myself, that doesn't even sound right. That's 3 times what I'm earning. Who makes that kind of money? Like it just seemed like such a stretch that it didn't even seem real. Well, let's fast forward 25 years. I'm here to tell you it is real, and it's more than doable. Get used to those numbers. Get used to thinking about them. Get used to dealing with them, because they're not fictitious. They're real, and they are very achievable. Very achievable. And once you cross that line from, earning employment income and being restricted in that sort of way, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. Take it from somebody who's been exactly where you are to somebody who did transition over to the other side, and who is now currently making the kind of numbers that I routinely discuss and talk about and deal with. Okay? All right, so anyway, hopefully I've touched on the three highest kind of feedback points that I'm getting from people during my discovery calls. And hopefully this provides a little more insight in regards to these numbers are for real. Don't lose sleep in terms of wanting to do something different in regards to where you're at today, wanting to acquire a firm and get in and how is the firm run. The firm pretty much runs itself, okay? You don't need to come in with a huge big game plan on day one. Your game plan, when you get involved in my program, we go over what your game plan is going to look like on day one. What I can tell you is that the changing and the tinkering and that sort of thing in regards to how things are done in the firm that you acquire, that's going to develop over a number of months, okay? That's not going to happen on day one. But anyway, like I said, you guys, my name is Kevin. I am the owner of multi 6 and 7 figure firms in Canada. And if you like what I had to say, then look me up. All my information's down below. Give me a shout and maybe we can see if there might be a change in your current situation right on the horizon. All right, thanks guys. We'll talk to you later. Bye for now.